I got 10:30 in here. Good morning. Welcome to the Bucks County Commissioners meeting for October 5th, 2022. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You'll notice that Commissioner DiGirolamo was not here. He was here earlier. Unfortunately, there is a health issue involving his mother, so he is on his way home. Obviously wish nothing but the best for her health, but he wanted to be home just in case, things were serious. So we wish him the best and wish her the best. I also want to start off with issuing an apology. This is a Yom Kippur, started last night at sundown, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. And so the days for these meetings are selected usually in December of the year before, where we get a list of the dates and we kind of take a look through them and decide, what's going to work, what's not going to work, any issues, any questions. And the fact that Yom Kippur obviously moves following the Jewish calendar, the lunar calendar, not necessarily the solar calendar. It's not the same day every year. And it sort of slipped past everyone up until recently that today's meeting is scheduled for a high holy day. So apologies certainly to those members, residents, and neighbors of ours who are of the Jewish faith. That certainly was not meant in disrespect, but we do I guess ironically, or appropriately, I should say, rather, on this Day of Atonement, atoning for that oversight on our part. So, we have a presentation today. We have Christian Regosh and Chad Dixon who are here to talk about a traffic study or a study that was done in Upper Bucks County, and looking for some ways that we might be able to improve public transportation. So, Mr. Dixon.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for having us at your meeting this morning to present the findings of the Upper Bucks Public Transportation Feasibility Study. My firm, McMahon Associates, and our subconsultant Foursquare worked with the County Planning Commission on this effort. It was funded by a grant received from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, and we initially started on the study in 2021. So here was the basic scope of work for the project and the schedule it followed. There was 4 main components: a data gathering phase, alternatives analysis, looked at costs and funding, and then produced a feasibility report. During the course of the project, we conducted 3 public meetings at strategic points during the course of the effort to get valuable input from the public in terms of the potential needs, their thoughts on the alternatives that we were evaluating, and then the draft report that we produced at the end. The project was also guided by a steering committee appointed by the County Planning Commission, consisting of the municipalities included in the study area in the Upper Bucks region, SEPTA, LANTA, the Transit Authority to the north for the Lehigh Valley, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, PennDOT, and state legislators. And the steering committee met during the course of the project on 5 occasions. So in order to develop options for potential public transportation service and alternatives, we first had to conduct a transit market analysis, and what you see on the screen are the major components of those analysis. Population and job density, as you would expect in the Upper Bucks region, it's a lower density of people and jobs compared to other parts of Bucks County and the Delaware Valley. Key destinations where people tend to go, typically centered around the population areas, but we also found that the larger employers within the Upper Bucks areas Some of them also are located out in the more suburban areas. We also looked at travel patterns, both locally and regionally, and what we found was that the majority of trips within the Upper Bucks area stay within the immediate area, with a few trips going to the Lehigh Valley, Doylestown area, or even Philadelphia. And then we also looked at socio-demographic patterns, such as older adults, people with disabilities, lower income households, minority populations, because these, in a lot of cases, tend to be the demographic groups that are more likely to use public transportation. So what we concluded after evaluating these different market factors was that the areas we needed to focus on for potential bus service was the Percy-Sellersville area, the Quakertown borough, the 309 corridor, and also the 663 corridor. Before we developed alternatives for potential service, we had to first look at what options might be most suitable for the area based on the market analysis. And what we found is that there were two public transportation or bus options that were likely most suitable. One is your typical fixed route local bus or local circulator, what you would see with the SEPTA bus normally in the suburbs. The other option that we thought was potentially a good fit for the area based on the lower densities and the demographic data and needs was a newer concept called Microtransit, where it's a flexible on-demand service very similar to Lyft or Uber, but uses slightly larger vehicles and pulls together larger groups of folks to provide trips within the designated area. So once we picked the options that we thought were most suitable, then we began to look at potential alternatives. In total, we looked at 6 fixed route alternatives to begin with and 2 microtransit alternatives. We narrowed that down to 3 fixed route alternatives and 1 microtransit alternative. The microtransit alternative would cover a large area, and again, this was based on employers being spread out within the Upper Bucks area to cover roughly 47 square mile area, and would also provide the benefit of connecting to other regional transit services, such as the SEPTA bus route 132, which terminates in the Telford area, Atlanta service to the north, the Northeast Extension Park and Ride, and even the Lansdale Regional Rail Station. The fixed route alternatives that we looked at were, we labeled them as A, B, and C. Percy-Sellersville was one, and that service would roughly run between the Penn Ridge High School and Grandview Hospital. Option B, which would be more of a circulator service for Quakertown Borough and the immediate area surrounding it. And then what we called for Route C, the 309 corridor, which would run roughly from the Richland Marketplace to Telford Borough in the south to connect with the SEPTA Route 132. After evaluating the alternatives, the recommendation was that microtransit was the most appropriate solution for the service area based on lower levels of ridership that would be expected for Upper Bucks in the large geographic area that you would want to try and cover. And the microtransit's easily scalable compared to traditional fixed route bus service. You can start out small. Once you learn where your trips are most often occurring in terms of origins and destinations, it's easy to increase the number of vehicles, drop the wait time to catch a ride, and scale it in that manner. That's not to say that fixed route service is not viable. It could potentially also work as a complement to the microtransit service, and we envisioned all 3 fixed route services operating in tandem as a network, so the entire area would be served. We took a very preliminary look at costs for each of the alternatives. I won't get into all the numbers in this table, but the basic conclusions was that the microtransit service compared to fixed route was slightly less while using the same number of vehicles, more ridership. So when you combine the route A, B, and C all together and compare that to microtransit, the fixed route options combined would be more expensive than microtransit and not capture as many riders. So this is just a very preliminary look at costs for these alternatives. If something was to move forward towards implementation, these alternatives and costs would have to be refined further. In terms of action items that we identified moving forward, one is to determine a local champion or champions to sort of to lead moving forward with an implementation plan. One case study that we used during the project that we would see a service for Upper Bucks being very similar to is the Doylestown DART, and that has been successful due to a local champion that has really taken a leadership role in terms of implementing it, maintaining the service along with a vendor, and continuing to expand and make the service better. Coordinate with PennDOT, Bureau of Public Transportation, to seek potential funding sources for a demonstration project to get started. This type of service is probably not at the scale for something that SEPTA would look to fund and operate. So they could be involved in terms of a pass-through for funding that would come from the state or federal government, but they would be more of a partner for this project. So that's why we identified the local champion and identifying and building partnerships amongst the municipalities, the business communities, institutions, and other key stakeholders is really important if something is to be implemented for public transportation service in the Upper Bucks area. So with that, I'll conclude the presentation. On the screen is a website that was developed for the project and is maintained by the Planning Commission. It contains all of our presentations to the steering committee and public during the course of the project, and where folks can find a copy of the feasibility report.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. Questions or comments?
Thank you. People have been asking for this for years, and this is just wonderful to be able to have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously very, it's a first step, as you said. I mean, you know, trying to find, we know that there is some movement toward changing the way public transportation works, especially with buses. Certainly other parts of Bucks County are still, you know, underserved, but definitely the upper end of the county, you know, really needs public transportation. I think this is a good step. I'm kind of anxious to sort of move forward a little bit and try to start doing some of the things you're recommending, you know, finding some champions and looking for some stakeholders. We'll start out with some of the elected leaders in Upper Bucks and try to get them on board. The Upper Bucks Chamber of Commerce, I'm sure, would be interested in this too. And just to reiterate, the project website you see up there is on the Planning Commission website, which you can get through Bucks County's main website. So if you wanted to see this and other details, go to the Bucks County website, go to Planning Commission, and then you'll be able to find this and do some more digging on your own. That's all I had. Any other? Christian, anything from you? No? You're just okay, here for moral support? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
The work and the presentation. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to go to public comment. Just refreshing the screen here. Make sure we have everybody. So, Andy Warren.
Morning, lady and gentlemen, man. Two questions today. One is item 5A. What would be the amount of that? I'm assuming it's a revenue coming in. I'm asking, it's revenue coming in? What would be the amount? And it says an extension of implementation, which again, I would assume we've had for some period of time. And what exactly does PREA standards protecting inmates, safeguarding communities, what are some of the things that are done? How long have we had that? Just generally, what's that one all about? And 8B, $260,000 for demolition of a women's community center, the corrections, with COVID money. And if so, what does demolishing a county facility have to do with COVID?
Okay. I'm just on. Lori Katz.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm going to speak on 11A, Information Technology. The CenturyLink Communications doing business as Lumen Tech. I'm just wondering what this technology is about and what the 403,028.78. Who's getting the VPN and what will it be for? And I guess if you break it down, it looks like $33,000 a month for the internet. Is that including setting up multiple buildings? How many places are you guys getting internet for? My other topic is 7A. The Aon Risk Services Central, Inc. I'd like you to please explain what services this covers for the $130,000, and is it related in any way to the Aon presentation, the 5G presentation from the 9/21 meeting? And if not, please tell us about the services, and if so, please tell us about the services. And I would also recommend taking a look at the Newtown Patch article from May 29th, 2022, which highlights Dr. DeSanto Ott, if it is related to the 5G. And I have the Patch article here, and I'm happy to share it with you if you'd like a copy, if it is related to the 5G.
Okay.
That's all my comments.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Those are all the names for the agenda. A couple things regarding Mr. Warren asked about the corrections and the PREA. It is extending it for 1 year. It was supposed to end a couple days ago, 9/30/2022. It's going to now be extended for 1 year to 9/30/2023. The amount of the grant is $250,000. That's not changing. Do you want to comment?
Just wanted to say this is
Microphone.
a federal law.
Microphone.
This is a federal law that was passed in 2003. You've been seeing it on our agenda every year, or maybe twice a year sometimes, since 2004. And it involves education, making sure that staff is aware, and creating an environment where there is no sexual assault in jails, hence the Prison Rape Elimination Act.
The other question was about the demolition of the building. The old Women's Community Corrections Center is going to be the site of the new forensic facility dealing with or helping people who are going through mental health issues, which obviously is connected to ARPA. And so in order to obviously build a new building, you've got to take down the old one. So infrastructure, mental health issues, all ties in. So with the questions from Ms. Katz, information technology, Mr. Rugula, do you want to talk a little bit about Lumen, what it is they do, and what exactly we're getting for our money?
Thank you. This is a continuation of services offered through Lumen Technology. It connects all of our county buildings. I believe there are 38 buildings that are connected in either primary or redundancy connectivity, ranging from 10 megabyte to 1 gigabyte based on building need. So it is multiple services, including internet access through Ivy Land and our administration building. So it is all service. It's a comprehensive connection of all county buildings.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. And in terms of Aon, this is not related to 5G. This is Aon essentially provides insurance. Mr. Buscoli, you want to comment just a little bit on Aon?
Yes, Aon Risk Services Central provides insurance brokerage services for the county. They secure and facilitate all insurance needs for the county. Its employees, its facilities, its buildings, its general liability, its workers' comp. All of our insurance needs, they act as our insurance broker and secure those the insurance premiums with the carriers that we contract with for all our insurance needs.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, the gentleman from Aon at our last meeting was here because they have a they work together with 5G LLC. No one from 5G was able to make that meeting, and so the gentleman from Aon was here to talk about, a little bit about their project and what they're doing. So, okay, so move on with our agenda. Comments or questions about the minutes from September 21st? No? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes and the consent agenda, which is items 1 through 14?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Moving on with our budget adjustments. Mr. Buscol, give the mic back.
Thank you. At the meeting, one of the meetings in August, the Board of Commissioners approved the sale of the Visit Bucks building down in Ben Salem. That agreement, this budget adjustment will facilitate that agreement with the recognition of the revenue and the pass-through of the funding to Ben Salem and to Visit Bucks.
Okay. All right, and just, I guess, for clarity, in terms of how that building was funded, obviously way before me, the county did have a role in building the building, but we've gotten that money back. Ms. McKevy, you want to comment on that? Just
right. The money has been brought back to the county. This sale will go through and will reimburse Visit Bucks County. And we will, I think we'll capture a little over $50,000 of it. Yeah.
And the original land deal involved Ben Salem Township as well, so if the property was sold, Ben Salem Township would also get some money from that sale, and so that's why Ben Salem Township's getting some money too. Visit Bucks County has decided they were more comfortable moving into a different facility in terms of space and location. My understanding is they're actively working on a lease on the property, so I know this is, they're not moving yet. I think they're moving maybe in the next couple months.
I was going to say, yes, they're providing virtual services for a short duration of time, and then they will lease some property for meetings and things like that.
Okay, so this was really something driven by them. They're the ones who kind of proposed this idea. They felt like they could better do their jobs and virtually, and also, moving to a different location and obviously get some revenue for sale of the building. Okay, is there a motion to approve the budget adjustment number 12?
Motion to approve number 12.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Personnel actions on the commissioners list. Any issues or questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the commissioners list?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Board appointments, we have one appointment to the Housing Authority to fill a vacancy. Ms. Gail Humphrey for the term that will end June 30th, 2025. Is there a
Motion to appoint Gail Humphrey.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, other civics. Coalition to Shelter and Support the Homeless, $1,500. Immigrants' Rights Action, $2,500. I know we have somebody here, I think, from,
We have Kate from the Hub. I wanted to take this time, we don't usually do this, but the public might be interested in the Immigration Rights Action, why we're making that contribution.
yeah, we did make another one earlier this year, but this is a second one, and it's for a good reason. Yes.
Привіт, добрий день. Радий бачити. Мене звати Кейті. І я хочу вам допомогти.
You gotta be louder, sorry. You have to be louder.
Keep going, say louder.
Yeah.
Okay. Привіт, добрий день. Радий бачити. Мене звати Кейті. Я хочу вам допомогти. So I said, hi, good day. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Katie. And I want to talk about Ukrainian humanitarian parolees, who Bucks County, the areas of Bucks County, Mako, and Philly are the largest population of Ukrainians in the United States. And we in Bucks are receiving many applications for Ukrainian humanitarian parolees to come over to Bucks to flee Ukraine. In just the past week, we've had the government received 1,900 applications just for Bucks for authorizations to come over to the United States. So the Hub is seeing an influx of Ukrainian parolees coming in, mostly women, children, and seniors, and we help them apply for healthcare, food stamps, and sometimes cash assistance if they are eligible. We want to provide everyone the service in the county, especially Ukrainians, due to the trauma they've experienced and the help that they need. The money going to Immigrants' Rights Action will be it's $410 to receive an employment authorization and a social security number. Many of these people that are coming here, they want to work. So that money is really going to be helpful. Sponsors are, it's hard supporting many family members on lower incomes. So having that money is really important so these people can get to work. They want to be part of our county, part of the US, and contribute to society. So we thank the commissioner so much for doing this. And I will say, Diakio, which means thank you, goodbye.
Okay. Sorry, one question, sorry. Just if people are interested in helping, if they want to make a donation, are there any, I know we had up on our website for a while earlier this year, a couple different agencies. Are there any that you're working with?
Yeah, if people can reach out to Immigrant Rights Action, also JEVS and Bethany Christian Services, HIAS as well. You can find all this information on our website. And please, Ukrainians, their families, please contact the Hub for help applying for these services, help navigating the system. We'll do all we can to help you. We have translators available. I'm speaking a little Ukrainian, trying to learn, but we are here. And Slava Ukraini.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so we have two amounts here to contribute to these two nonprofits. Is there a motion to make both payments
So moved.
or donations? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you. So it's unfortunate that Christian left because October is National Community Planning Month, and I would have thanked him for his efforts. Planners work to create resilient, safer, more equitable, and thriving communities in the work that they do every day. I've spent a lot of time in the Planning Commission, so I know how hard they work on all of the things that they do to make our county a better place to live, work, and visit, frankly. The planning staff just released a brand-new online trails map, which I think is very useful and has been widely publicized and picked up by the news outlets, thankfully, and will be used throughout the county to find pathways, rail trails, towpath trails, trails and bicycle facilities throughout the county. So I hope that folks will come to the website and find our lovely trails throughout the county. And then secondly, I guess I'm happy for Kevin, but I'm sad for the county. Kevin Spencer is our General Services Director. He will be leaving us Friday. Kevin, thank you for your time here. It's been a pleasure to work with you. You have answered every question, concern constituents have presented you, have run a very fine organization for general services for the county over the years. Some of your accomplishments are many, and they are have saved the county a lot of money over the years, especially in energy and efficiency and operations. You saved $100,000 annually in the buildings since 2010. You also worked on the county dog park in-house, the first one we ever had. Of course, the building we're sitting in, the renovation of this building, you spearheaded the building of the Justice Center as well. The bridges, something that I know you're going to miss, Kevin. But it is a huge accomplishment when that was turned over to us, and the money that we needed to use to renovate the bridges. There were 54 deficient bridges since 2014, and we're down to 10 in 2023, too. Hopefully, by 2024, we'll make it even further. You started up the food pantry with the help of Commissioner Marseglia out of the county warehouse. It was something that I think none of us thought we could do, but amazingly enough, we did have a refrigerator left over from the old nursing home in the warehouse, which served that purpose very well and certainly during COVID as well. And many, many other projects, emergency management warehouse, certainly behind the warehouse that we have now, served us very well during COVID with the drive-through pickups for businesses, storing all of the masks and materials that we needed during that time. So that was another great accomplishment. The new women's prison that's going to come online soon, that was spearheaded under you as well. And I could go on and on and on and on. But we thank you for your time here, and we will miss you.
Yeah, thank you. Good. All right. Solicitor Report. Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll begin by reporting that the board had its standing executive session yesterday, which they conducted to discuss and consult with staff and legal counsel about personnel matters, collective bargaining negotiations, and pending litigation matters. On the note of litigation matters, because we don't litigate our cases in the media or at Board of Commissioner meetings, but we do so in the courtroom, today is the day that I can finally report on the close of a case that wasted too much time, too much money, and too much precious attention that could have been diverted elsewhere over the last 18 months. So we are now in October, which is budget season. It's the time of year where our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Boscola, and his hardworking staff are hard at work on next year's budget. It's a process that this entire Board of Commissioners takes very seriously. Their stewardship has kept county taxes flat. It has preserved our bond rating. It has maintained a high quality of services for the people of Bucks County. 2 years ago, in response to concerns about the management of her office, the coroner, who's actually here today, Mr. Boscola had recommended that the commissioners dole out her funding over the course of 2021, one chunk at a time, to better enable them to maintain close oversight of her funding. And for reasons that only she can explain, the coroner didn't pay attention to what was going on with her own funding until long after the 2021 budget vote. And instead of submitting monthly budget assessments like every other office, every other department, instead of apologizing or promising to do...
Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. Excuse me.
So instead of promising to do a better job of working with the finance department, the coroner decided to file a lawsuit, which we haven't been able to talk about until today. And this lawsuit was not filed against the County of Bucks or even the Finance Department of the Board of Commissioners as an entity. It was a personal lawsuit directed individually at these two commissioners and Commissioner DiGirolamo, sending people to their houses to serve them with process. When her own solicitor refused to file such a lawsuit, she went out and eventually found a lawyer who was willing to do so for a fee. And so, at her office, not the commissioner's meeting room, she called a press conference. The stated goal of that was, quote, to get the commissioner's attention. But when the press showed up and the commissioners didn't, she announced she was withdrawing the lawsuit, and she kicked the reporters out of her office, only to file the lawsuit again a week or so later. The only thing more bizarre than that series of events was the lawsuit itself. This lawyer kept filing new versions of the same complaint that we kept responding to. The essence was always that the coroner wanted a judge to force the commissioners to give her more money, even though that is not how county government works. And as their legal strategy looked more and more desperate, they added an accusation that the three commissioners had somehow violated the Sunshine Act, even though their budget vote occurred at a public meeting that was open to the public, advertised, live streamed on the internet, and provided for public comment. And time after time, the commissioners' efforts to have their case heard in court were met with delay. When the coroner and her counsel asked to disqualify all of the judges in Bucks County from hearing the case, we had to wait for months until a judge from another county could come to Doylestown and actually review the case on the merits. And when he read the lawsuit, he agreed that all these budget claims were nonsense and had no business in a court of law. And so he dismissed every one of those counts because judges don't set budgets. County commissioners do. Now, because judges do resolve Sunshine Act disputes, the judge wanted to hear the evidence before deciding on that last remaining count. And so the duly elected county commissioners and the county's chief financial officer all had to take time away from their schedules to testify under oath and confront these false accusations that their budget votes had somehow occurred at some secret meetings. Commissioner Marseglia testified about how seriously the commissioners took their responsibilities to the taxpayers to get this right. Commissioner Harvey testified about how much he wanted to see the coroner and all row officers in all departments be successful. Commissioner DiGirolamo testified about how seriously he took the Sunshine Act as a former legislator who had supported it in Harrisburg. It was no surprise that the judge found their testimony to be credible and, in his words, sincere. The big surprise was when the coroner took the witness stand and admitted under oath that she actually hadn't seen or heard any secret meetings. She just believed that there was some circumstantial evidence and filed a lawsuit, paying the bills out of her own pocket, keeping the records at her own house, and using her personal email account for her emails because, quote, I don't necessarily trust that they are not looking at them. Obviously, the only right thing to do was to dismiss the case. That is exactly what the judge did yesterday. Now, as the county solicitor, as the attorney arguing this case with a phenomenal team, Rachel Thompson representing Commissioner Harvey, Ginger Hardwick representing Commissioner Marseglia, Jessica Vanderkamp representing Commissioner DiGirolamo, I'm obviously glad to have this result, but it's just an awful shame that the commissioners had to go through this ordeal in such a frivolous case. If any good can come out of this, maybe it's this. As with other cases that we've talked about recently, we had lawyers betting that the county would rather write them a big check than endure the burden of nuisance litigation. And I think that we've shown once again that's a bad bet to make. These commissioners are not afraid of a fight, nor will they be bullied. They have steel in their spines, and for their stoic silence during this painful process that is thankfully over, they have my sincerest respect. And finally, Commissioner, on a bittersweet note, on another personnel action that was on today's agenda, I will congratulate one of our attorneys, Keith Bidlingmeyer, who, effective with today's personnel action, is being transferred from the law department to the courts to serve as the county's first ever bail review officer. Over the last 2+ years, Mr. Bidlingmeyer has done really just amazing, impactful work working with the wonderful team at Corrections in doing so much to make sure that we comply with the prison reforms, the Prison Rape Elimination Act, and other reforms, including the efforts to make sure that whatever the county can do to address the swelling populations, it will do so, keeping in mind that while there is a great public safety need to ensure that dangerous people who need to be held before they serve their state sentences or they go to trial need to be in custody, that there's always room for improvement when we have people who are being held on shoplifting charges or drug possession charges who are simply waiting for a trial date that may be months in the future. And Mr. Bidlingmeyer is going to be continuing that important work, working directly under the courts. He was handpicked by the president judge, which is an incredible honor. And so while we'll miss his service as an assistant county solicitor, we look forward to working with him in this new capacity, and we congratulate the courts on a really wonderful hire. And that completes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Appreciate your work and the work of the staff. And definitely we'll miss Mr. Bidlingmeyer, although I think, as you said, he's moving into a spot that I think will be, if possible, even more helpful to the county than he has been over these past 2 years. So, all right, we're up to public comment on general items at this point. Josh Hogan? Left? Okay. I'm going to try, if I make a mistake on this next one, I apologize. Jan Arbratuno?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to make you aware of a letter that was sent to you today, signed by 16 Bucks County School Board Directors. The letter starts off with, quote, "We are writing to you with grave concern over your attempts to subvert the authority of our duly elected school boards in the 2021-2022 academic year." It goes on to describe the roles and authorities of your office as commissioners and their office as school directors. It notes how the politicization of COVID has made it difficult to navigate these issues. It addresses how it was improper for your campaign manager, Eric Nagy, to release health guidance that was a departure from all previous department health guidance. And finally, the letter ends with, quote, "Please be informed that we, the school board directors elected by our constituents, are the ones entrusted with the solemn duty to enact policies for our respective districts. County commissioners do not have a legal authority to interfere in our policymaking decisions. Our expectation is that you will learn from this mistake and moving forward honor the boundaries of your elected office."
Beth Curcio?
Good morning. Now you know how we, the people, feel, because you don't get to talk. Okay, a couple things. These iPad things are really, you know, Mr. Harvey, you say that we're so way behind in Pennsylvania. We're not way behind on corruption. It's just ridiculous. In Delaware County, if you would read that book, but you only read what you want to read, you only watch what you want to watch. Greg Stempson is a forensic scientist is all this. All this proof's in here. It's going to court. It's going to the Supreme Court. But we have the midterm elections coming up. And I want you to bring some iPads in here and compare them to our signatures and see if you can match those signatures. Diane, you're trying to save people time. Why don't we make it so we have the day off for election? These are our elections. Do you realize what happened to Venezuela? They were the richest Hispanic country in the world. And dollars are blowing around. People are starving because of the communism that came into their country. This is what's happening in our republic. It is not a democracy. It is a constitutional republic. Diane, I decided to watch some of the videos because I had never watched them with you telling everybody they're grandstanding, but it's you that's grandstanding. You continue to say people are liars. What are they lying about? Write it down, put it on your website. Tell me what they're lying about, instead of just gaslighting them, their conspiracy theories and everything else. Show us what the lies are. What's the big deal? If someone lies, call them out, write it there, and we'll prove our facts. Do you ever do anything besides your own facts? This own attorney said he would try it in the court of law. He just tried the coroner in front of all of us. It's ridiculous. We, the people, are who you answer to. And we come to these meetings because we want our county to be secure, not like Delaware County. And Diane, when you say that vaccine is 100%
Okay, thank you.
effective,
Thank you.
the only people getting COVID are those who are
Ms. Kirso, thank you. Okay. Karen Rohrer. Karen Rohrer.
Thank you. I'm also here to talk about the electronic poll books. I am a judge of elections. I've been elected to my position just as you have. And the first that I was informed of the electronic poll books being used in the precinct is when I got a letter a couple of weeks ago notifying me that I needed to have training. Now, my issue is a little bit different than the prior speaker. My issue is around privacy, okay? We live in a digital world, and data is the currency. There are a lot of bad actors out there. We now have 304 locations with approximately 600 poll books that have all of the personal information of every voter in this county. Just recently, in August, in Michigan, there was an election worker that was charged with 2 felonies for attempting to place a USB or what I actually work for a software company, a dongle or a thumb drive into one of these electronic poll books. Now, I don't know, I didn't do a lot of research as to what this bad actor was attempting to do. I don't know if he or she was trying to pull personal information out of, on the voters to sell that data, or if this person was trying to corrupt the actual poll pad. But anyone who has worked with any type of electronics, no matter how hard you try to secure that data, there is no such thing in a digital world. It's not secure. And what I am attempting to do as both a judge of elections and as a private citizen is protect my personal information from bad actors. And I was not allowed that choice when the board decided that we were going to go ahead and use electronic poll books. At the very least, there should be, and I understand, you say that you put this out, in the meetings. A lot of people.
Sorry, Ms. Rohrer, I'm sorry. Time's up. I hear what you're saying. Thank you. Joe Frederick.
Good morning, Commissioners. First, I want to say thank you to everybody for the work you've done. The latest thing that I want to talk about is we've had a lot of homeless people, and I know that Mayor West has been speaking with Commissioner Marseglia about that. It's a unique problem, it's all over Bucks County. A lot of these homeless folks have nowhere to go. They've come from Philadelphia because they know this is a safe place and a place they can get fed, and it's a real tough situation for all the towns and municipalities to deal with them. So I'm hoping that commissioners can work with the local mayors to come up with a solution. It's not a police solution, it's a mental health solution, and I think I hope you end up working that out, and thank you for that.
Thank you. So Mr. Hogan's come back in. Mr. Hogan, did you want to speak?
First off, thank you for calling me back up. A couple meetings ago, there was a situation where you called, I believe it was a Democrat committee woman back in a manner that we felt it blocked us from speaking, certainly felt political, so I do appreciate the opportunity to come back in and speak. Specifically, I want to address, I'm going to read here, the response that you sent to Chris O'Leary at the Courier-Times regarding the ongoing attempt to get an answer as to what happened in August of 2021. I missed the last meeting, so I couldn't bring it up then, but here's what you sent. This administration deems such a pathetic, blatantly partisan, uninformed, and inaccurate statement to be unworthy of a reply. When your starkest defenders are Judicial Watch and January 6th insurrectionist extremist Doug Mastriano, that speaks for itself. You heard that today there are a growing number of school board directors becoming aware of exactly what happened because we've done nothing but dig for it. Are you going to call them all insurrectionists or extremists or conspiracy theorists or whatever it is? It has constantly been the same for us. We're here to ask what happened and how. And that question has never been answered. These type of tactics, it's disappointing. At this point, I can't say that it's surprising, unfortunately, because your government Twitter account followed an account which is specifically designed to just mock me and parody me, and you still won't answer how that occurs or how you fixed it, who runs the Twitter account. You're suing Jamie and Megan to hide your own emails while using all of these names. You have security guards follow them around this whole entire building, get your head of security to try to throw them out of meetings, slander them in the press. This is definitely getting to the point where it's disappointing, and I'm at the point where I don't understand why you won't just address what happened and exactly how that guidance came to be. Why do you have to continue to hide behind it, make this more painful for everybody? Who created the guidance? How was it put together? And what have you guys done to ensure that that won't happen again?
Andy Warren?
First of all, all the best to Kevin. Mr. Spencer has been a professional every time we've had to deal with him. I wish you the very best and hope that your departure is your idea and not someone else's, but true. Second, I coached cross-country at William Tennant for 30 years. We were very successful in spite of the coach. But we had one rule, and it was a hard and fast rule. When you had something to say about the team, you said it in the locker room, and you kept it in the locker room. Nobody asked, but I would suggest that that would be a fine way for county government to operate also when we're talking within a team, unless we're asked by newspapers. Which also, one other point to that, I agree, judges don't absolutely set the budget. But there's a great book that was written that talks about a chapter in there, Beckert versus Warren, where you might be interested to see the influence they do have. The last point, 3 points. One, at some point, could we get someone from the Tourist Commission to come in and give a little more in depth about where this move's going, what's happening, and so forth. Two, in the last 2 weeks, there were 2 great stories in papers. One about COVID, one about the prison, and the point that I want to make is that in the COVID, I read a great deal about what Ms. Kevitz said, Mr. Bascola said. The other one I read about someone from what Prime Care said, Tim Brevitt said, Mary Perrin said from Idaho. Darn little about what the commissioners say. I didn't vote for anybody from Idaho or Prime, where I voted for or against y'all. I'd like to read it from you.
Okay. Lori Katz?
Most people work during this time, and I have received appreciation from our community for taking my time to bring concerns to your collective attention. People can watch the video feed at their leisure. Your decisions affect over 500,000 people in Bucks County, quite a consequential position. 2 weeks ago, there was a presentation given about 5G coming into our county. This was not on the agenda nor listed as a presentation. I'm wondering when we can have a community discussion to better understand 5G, any research that has been done concerning health implications, and the cost-benefit analysis before decisions are made that could affect our community's health and well-being. People in Newtown are concerned about the health implications regarding 5G towers. This came up at the Newtown Board of Supervisors meeting on 4/27/22. It's my understanding that information is spreading and the concern level is rising. Would you be willing to hold a countywide town hall for all the people that might be affected by this? Experts can give both sides of the proposal and allow Q&A. There are 250 county buildings where this technology might be affixed. There are likely county workers in these buildings. Are they aware they may receive concentrated exposure? In some quick research that I did, I came across a Facebook site called Pennsylvanians for Safe Technology that I'd recommend you and the citizens look at. There's a particular hearing in the featured section from 928 that I'd recommend watching. There's a speaker at the 1 hour, 30-minute point that is of particular interest named Cecilia Doucette. I would strongly and respectfully request that we evaluate not only the economic and technological benefits, but consider community concerns and possible health impacts. Please follow BCWSA's lead and hold a town meeting for our county residents during the evening when they can participate and you can hear and consider their concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Those are the names on the list. Just to go through a couple things. The first, well, I'll go backwards, frontwards, I guess. Maybe 5G was on our agenda. That's why it was discussed. That's why it was voted on. It was on the agenda under regular. In terms of Mr. Warren's comments about the, what's in the press, obviously you should know this. We can't control what the media does. They can ask us questions. We can provide answers. What they choose to write about, is kind of up to them. So I couldn't, a lot of it went through our public information. So if it was about the prison, that would have been coming from them to public information. They would have directed them to the Director of Corrections or possibly us, but can't control. Yep. The homelessness issue, as you know, is a problem across the country. And certainly here in Bucks County, we're no different. The commissioners have been focused and the administration has been focused on the homeless issue. We've spent quite a lot of money under the Bucks Emergency Rental Assistance to keep about 3,000 families in their homes over the past couple of years, thanks to state and federal funding. So we're going to keep that work going as long as we can and continue working with the communities about how to address the homelessness problem. There just simply is no place to send people. During the pandemic, when tourism was down, there were hotels and motels in the county which would take homeless people, and we would actually foot the bill for it. As the economy got better and more tourism was happening, there just aren't those possibilities anymore. We do obviously have a shelter which has about a waiting list of about 120 people. So it is obviously an issue that we're trying to focus on and working with our nonprofits, working through county agencies. I don't know if you wanted to add anything. Okay. The poll books, kind of assumed would be an issue today in terms of where we are with the poll books. 16 counties in Pennsylvania use e-poll books, including Washington County, which is a heavily Republican county, which has been using them since 2013. In fact, most of the 16 counties, I think 14, not counting us, about 14 of the 16 counties are Republican-controlled. In the Commonwealth. 7 of them use the specific kind that we're going to be using. In addition, I can run through the list of states that use just the poll books that we use. Most of Alabama, parts of Arizona, California, Connecticut, all of Washington, D.C., most of Georgia, Hawaii, Iowa, Illinois, most of Indiana, and some of those counties go back to 2014. Most of Kansas, again, going back to 2014 for some of those. Most of Massachusetts, most of Minnesota, much of Missouri, Mississippi, all of North Dakota, which goes back to 2019. Parts of New Jersey, New Hampshire, Nevada, New York, most of Ohio, some going back to 2015, Oklahoma, all of Rhode Island, South Dakota, parts of South Dakota, most of Tennessee, going back to 2015, about half of Texas, going back to 2015, most of Utah, going back to 2019, and much of Virginia, some of them going back to 2017. So again, when I commented on the issue that we are behind in many ways, that's an example. And again, these are just the e-poll books that are using the type that we use. They are not connected to the internet. Yes, they do contain the addresses and names of the voters at that precinct, but so does the actual poll book itself. And so it's, whatever information is in them is actually in the existing poll book itself. So, excuse me. All right. So this is not a decision we took lightly. This is a decision that was vetted by our staff. Multiple e-poll books were tested. Excuse me. All right. It was piloted in multiple precincts across the county in 2 different elections. The poll workers themselves raved about it, sending emails to us begging us to buy them and make them permanent, which is what we're doing. And so we are taking security very seriously, as we always have in this county, and even the commissioners before us. I'm not saying that election security just started in January 2020. It's been here. Certainly I never questioned the Republican majority when they ran elections in this county. I trusted that they did the job well, and I think they did, especially because it was the staff that did most of the work, or all the work, quite frankly. And so I trusted them, as you should as well. Do understand that there is going to be training for people. There's also going to be training online for people to use. These are incredibly easy devices to use. Commissioner DiGirolamo himself went down and tried one out and was impressed by it. And so it is something that we are moving forward with and excited to use. And I think that people will enjoy using them and see the benefit in them. Anything else from you? Yeah, go ahead.
I would just add 2 things to that. No, there's no Social Security number there. And the other thing is you can walk down to the Board of Elections when you leave here, and for $20, you can get the list of everything that is on those poll books. That is public information. You are entitled to that information. I can go down and get it. That's just how it is. When you register to vote, everybody gets to look at it. That's just the way it is. So there's nothing in here to be worried about. I just want to reiterate that we actually were asked to do this by judges of elections. They put together with us a committee who looked into it. Then we piloted it. This has been on agendas at Board of Elections and here before. This is nothing new. There was a time when people, were in horse and buggies, and people said, oh, no, we can't have these cars. You got to get adjusted to new things sometimes. And for this election, we will have poll books there in case there's a problem.
Excuse me. Ma'am. So, all right, we're going to move on with commissioner comments.
I just have one comment. Just one comment. You don't get to see everybody behind the scenes here, but we just wanted to give a shout out to one particular person. He's the person one of the people that make sure that we are actually on the screen so you can see us. It's Matt Brown, and he was I can see him turning around. He was in a 5K this weekend and finished 3rd place, and so we are really proud and grateful that he did well. So thank you.
Good job, Matt. It was about 1,000 runners, I think. He finished in 3rd place. Next time, he probably should carry a Bucks County flag, maybe a little bit, just to, if he really wants to represent me, okay, thumbs up. All right, so thank you. You'll notice that staff and commissioners, and Commissioner DiGirolamo as well, before he had to leave, are wearing pink today. This is in recognition of the importance to make sure that we are focused on breast cancer. And this is something, obviously, over the last decade or so, there's been a lot of focus on this, you're seeing it professional sports teams. So encouraging people, and obviously not just women in terms of mammograms, but men as well. Make sure you're getting your screenings, make sure you're paying attention to the health guidelines, depending what age you are. I remember remembering a story when I was in high school, a physics teacher who, one day he just felt this lump in his chest and just wasn't sure what it was, and figured it would go away after a while, and days and weeks passed, didn't go away, so he went in and went to the doctor, and he was sitting in the examining room, and the doctor walked in and looked at him and said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then walked out. And door closed, and he waited a little bit. The doctor came back in, and he said, "Is this your name?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh." He said, "Well," he said, "silly of me." He said, "I saw, the first initial last name and saw, lump on, whatever breast it was, and he just assumed it must be a female." And so when he saw a male patient, he was, it threw him back a little bit. But certainly, cancer does not discriminate. And so we want to encourage everybody to get their screenings, women especially with mammograms and breast cancer. And there are plenty of nonprofits who support those who are suffering, their families. So if you are interested in making a contribution, we talked about Ukrainians, trying to help them, consider making contributions to any of those societies or any of those organizations that help people who are battling cancer. I want to thank Mr. Spencer for his professionalism. Didn't know him before I got this office, like pretty much everybody else, almost everybody over there in the dock, in the jury box rather. And but he's always very professional, very knew his stuff, very responsive. So wish him the best of luck. I'm not sure. He certainly was not. Commissioner Warren talked about. Hopefully he made his own decision. I don't know if it was his. Could have been his wife's decision, but that but it certainly wasn't anybody up here. So. And wish him the best. And with that, I'll entertain motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.